Hey there everyone, my name is Avilash. Welcome back to another episode of this particular series where we are talking about Spring JDBC. And here in this particular video, we will be deleting few records from our database. That's because we want to do some delete operation by using Spring JDBC. So let me show you the content for this particular video. And here today we are going to talk about, obviously I'll be telling you how to do some delete operations. I'll be also asking you to develop some methods so that we can delete records from the database. I'll be giving you some tasks. I'll be giving you time to do some hands-on. And then obviously we'll be learning how to do batch and sort. So here, imagine that if you have 10,000 records and we want to insert all those 10,000 records to our table in one go. So basically how to do that? In real time, let's say you have a lot of records together and you don't want to insert those records one by one. Rather, you want to insert them all together to your database. Then how we are going to perform those operations, you'll be learning right here in this particular video. And at last, I'll be also telling you to develop some helper classes so that you'll be understanding how to create helper classes, how to use helper classes in our application. Some very basic small concept we'll be learning right here in the lesson 2. Small but important. Okay, so easy concepts, guys. Let's go for this and let's learn to delete records from the table by using Spring JDBC. That's coming up next. Alright, so right now let me develop a method to delete a record from a database. So first of all, let me close all these files because I do not want to confuse you people by showing you a lot of files here. So simply I'll go to my student DAO, and right here after the insert method, let me create another method here. Let's say void, and let's say delete record, right? Delete record by roll number. Okay, so basically I want to give a roll number to this method. Let's say if the user will say, hey, delete the roll number of, number 1 or number 2 or number 3, then we need to delete that particular record. And let's say once the delete operation is done, we need to return a boolean. Let's say boolean. Instead of saying void, I can say boolean, so that I can say if the delete operation happens well, then I will return true. If the delete operation didn't happen, I'll return false here. Okay, so basically right now let me go ahead and let me give the implementation for this delete by roll number method. So delete record by roll number. Okay, so I'll go to my student DAO IMPL, and here I will implement the unimplemented method, and there you go. I will have this delete record by roll number method. So right now let me maximize this and let me stretch it out a little. And let me zoom this. And right now, let me start designing this particular method. So first of all, I need to have a SQL statement, as I said. So let me say string SQL, and let me write a delete query here. So delete from table. My table name is student. And I will say here where roll number, roll underscore number. This is my table. This is my column name, right? Roll number. So my column name is roll number. So I'll say roll number is equal to something. Let's say 1 or 2 or 3 or something just like that. So right now I'll give a question mark because this will be dynamic. And basically this particular question mark should replace by this roll number. So whatever the roll number user will be sending, I can just replace this right here. So again, I'll do what? Right now, let me execute this particular SQL query, and basically this delete statement is going to update the database, isn't it? So if I'm deleting a record from the student, obviously my table will be updated. So let me use the update method of JDBC template. So I'll say JDBC template again, JDBC template. And this JDBC template is basically the one that we have created in the last video, right? So this JDBC template we have created in the last video, and we have also used the JDBC template right here inside our insert method. Okay. So we have done JDBC template.update inside our insert method, and the same thing we are going to do it inside our delete method also. So I'll say JDBC template.update. Okay, and I am going to use this particular method. So this method is taking a SQL as an argument, and we also need to pass all the arguments for that SQL, just like this. We'll say update here, let's say JDBC template, update, and which is my SQL query. This is my SQL query. Let me copy this and paste it here. And also what is going to be this particular value? This particular value will be roll number. So I'll say comma and roll number. So I'll say roll number, and let me give a semicolon right here. And this update method is going to return me a int. So if the update happens well, this particular is going to give me 1, because one record will be modified, isn't it? So this particular query, delete from student, where roll number is equal to some particular roll number, will basically delete one record, isn't it? Because we'll have only one record for that roll number. So this is basically going to return me 1 if the update is successful. So I'll say here, I will capture that particular value, whatever it is returning. So I'll say int number of row deleted. Okay, and obviously there will be only one number of row will be deleted for this query. And I'll say return, we need to return a boolean here. As I have told you, if our delete operation happens well, we need to return true. If our delete operation did not happen, we'll say false. So I'll say number of row deleted equal to 1. And obviously if the update happens, then this particular value will be 1 because one row will be deleted. And if the update will not happen, this particular value will be 0 or something else. Okay, so right now I'll say if it is equal to 1, then obviously it will return true. That means my delete operation happens fine. And also I can write a sysout here. I can say sysout, and I can say number of record deleted is, and I can concatenate this number of row deleted. Okay, there you go. So right now let me test this method called delete record by roll number. So basically I have used the same update method here to delete a record from a database. Okay, so right now let me go to my test class. So I'll open my test class here, and right here let me first of all comment this lines of code, because I do not want to insert any data. I want to delete a data. So I'll say student DAO IMPL. Okay, student DAO IMPL, this object dot delete record by roll number, and I will give a roll number. Let's say I want to delete this record called Abhishek. So I'll give the roll number as 2, and right here, as I have written there, it is going to return me a boolean. So I'll say boolean is deleted. Okay, and if it is deleted, if this is going to return true, if this particular delete operation happens well, I'll do what? I'll say if this is true, if is deleted, then just log it sysout the roll number to data got deleted, isn't it? Okay, so let me log this, and right now let me see whether this roll number 2 data got deleted or not, right? So right now let me run this application. And as you can see, number of record deleted is 1 because we have a log inside our delete method. And also the roll number 2 data is got deleted. This particular log is also getting printed, right? So right now let me go to my database. Let me hit the select statement again. And as you can see, the roll number 2 data is not here. So it's got deleted. So there you go. You have successfully created a delete method by using the Spring JDBC. So give it a shot and practice it just right now. Okay, so right now I am going to give you a new challenge. So hopefully you have understood how to delete a record by using Spring JDBC. But let's say if I have a different requirement. Let me switch to my MySQL workbench. And right here, let's say if I want to delete all the records whose name is Abhilash and who are from Pune, then how I'm going to do it? Let's say if I have some more records right now, let's say I'm going to insert some more records right here. Let's say number 6, Rakesh. Let's say he is from Pune again. And again, number 7, Prasad. Let's say he is from Pune again. Okay. And let me insert another record. Let's say number 8. And let's say his name is also Abhilash. And he is from, let's say, Telangana. Okay. So let me apply and let me insert all these records to my student table and let me hit apply. So it's executed successfully. So let me hit close. Okay, so I got some more data here to play around. Let's say right now my requirement is I want to delete all the students whose name is Abhilash. And also I want to delete all the students who are from Pune. So Ashish is from Pune, Rakesh is from Pune, and Prasad is from Pune. So how many records will be deleted? And obviously there are 2 students here in my database whose name is Abhilash. And also there are 1, 2, 3 students here in my database who are from Pune. So there will be total 5 number of records will be deleted from my database. So let me go ahead and let me write a query and let me write a method which can actually perform this operation for me. So let me switch back to STS. And right here, first of all, I'll go to my student DAO. And right here, let me write another method called delete record by student name and student address. Okay. So right here, I'm going to pass the student name. Let's say string student name. And also I'm going to pass the student address. So I'll say student address. Okay. And let's say this particular method is going to return me how many records are deleted from my database. So basically, let's say I'm going to return how many records got deleted. Let's say I'm going to return int here. And right now, let me go ahead and let me implement this particular method. So I'll go to my student DAO IMPL. First of all, I will implement the unimplemented method. I'll come down and right now, let me write my logic here. Okay. So it's pretty simple. There is nothing called logic here. I'm just going to write a simple SQL statement. So I'll say delete from student table. Okay. Where student name, student underscore name, this is my column name, is equal to something, or student underscore address is equal to something, right? So basically this particular student address will be replaced by this, and this particular student name is basically replaced by this. Okay. So now let me execute this. Again, I'm going to do some delete operation. That means I'm going to update my table. So I'll say JDBC template dot update. And again, I'm going to use, okay, let me use this particular method right now. I'm just trying to use different update method just to make you familiar. Well, so let me pass the SQL right here and let me pass some arguments. So what are the arguments? I can directly pass the student name here, and also I can do comma, and I can also pass the student address here. So basically this update method will take the SQL and the number of arguments that I have. So you can see this update method is accepting a variable args. Obviously, I hope you understand what do you mean by a var arg. If you do not understand the var arg, I have a different series of tutorial on my channel available called var args or variable arguments. You can go there and can study it. So basically the concept is you can pass as many number of arguments right here because this is going to convert it as an array. Okay. So I can pass it just like this. Okay. Otherwise you can do what? You can create an object array, and you are going to say arguments. And you are going to store all the arguments right here inside an array, just like student name and student address. Make sure the student name and student address is exactly going to be in the same order, because the student name is going to be replaced by this and the student address is going to be replaced by this. So the order is important. Okay. So instead of saying student name and student address just right here, I can just pass the arguments just right here. This is also going to work fine. Okay. So right now, in the end, this update method is going to return me an int. This is basically the number of row affected. So right now I'll say int, I'll say number of rows deleted, okay, is equal to something, and I am going to say, number of rows deleted. This is basically the number of rows got deleted, and I will say here sys out, and I'll say number of rows got deleted are, and I'm going to concatenate this number of rows deleted right here. So right now my method is ready. And right now let me try to execute this delete record by student name and student address method. So I'll go to my test.java and I will say, okay, let me comment, let me basically remove all these things. Okay, I do not need it. And right here, I can say student DAO IMPL dot delete record by student name and student address. And here I will say the student name will be Abhilash. Okay, so for Abhilash, how many records we have? 1 and 2. 2 records will be deleted. And the people who are from Pune, okay, 3 records are there from Pune. So total there will be 5 records will be deleted. So let me place the address here, let's say Pune, and there you go. So you are done. Right now let me run this application and let me test whether my records got deleted or not. And there you go, application context loaded, basically this particular line, and the number of rows got deleted are 5. So if you're going to go here and if you're going to do command enter to execute this statement, you can see right now you have only 2 records right here called David and Archita, okay, and the rest of the 5 records got deleted. Cool. So you're doing a good job. Congratulations, and go ahead and practice this particular delete record by student name and student address. Alright, so we have done a pretty good job here. We have created a student DAO IMPL class, and we have created an insert method. We have created a delete record by ID. We have also created another method called delete record, which will delete students based on their name and address. So right now, let me create a new method. Let's say if I have a requirement and my requirement is, delete all the records of a table. Then basically how you delete all the records from a table? We basically use a command called truncate truncate table, and then table name. My table name is, let's say, student, right? This is how basically, we are going to delete all the records from a table. Let's say I'm going to write a cleanup method right now, okay? And that cleanup method is going to clean all the records from a table. Well, the cleanup method is not basically going to be the part of a CRUD operation. So let me not add the method name just right here. Rather, what I'm going to do, let me go to student DAO IMPL and let me directly add a method here called, cleanup. Okay, let's say clean up. Okay. Okay, so I hope that you have taken time and you have developed the particular task that I have given you. So maybe your code will look similar to this. So just have a look on this particular code snippet, and have you done something similar to this? Basically, you may have used jdbctemplate.update and you have passed in your SQL, which is basically the truncate command. Okay, truncate table of student, because basically I want to delete all the records from my student table. Okay, so right now, if you would have done something just like this, there is a better way to do it. And I'm going to tell you that what is the better way to do it in a minute. But before that, let's go ahead and let's test this particular piece of code and let's see whether it is working fine. So let's test this. So right now, let me use this cleanup method inside my test class. Okay, let me check whether all these 2 records which is there inside my table right now, this is getting deleted or not. So I'll go to the test.java, and right here, let me, comment this line, and I'll say student DAO IMPL dot cleanup. Okay, let me do command S. Let me execute this particular program, and finger crossed. Yeah, there you go. Table cleaned up. let me go here and let me do command enter, and well, it's cleaned up. Inside our table, there are no records present here, isn't it? Alright, so right now our cleanup method is doing our work. But basically to run this kind of command like truncate, we have a better approach. And if we go with the JDBC template documentation, it provides some different method to run command like this, truncate table. Okay, so basically before we go for that, let's look at this particular command, truncate table student, and just tell me whether it is a DDL command or it is a DML command. So some of you may already have an answer for this, but some of you like me who always forget things may be confused right now. Well, I forgot, maybe it's a DDL or DML. So let me give you a very quick recap on DDL and DML so that you'll just kind of remember all the concept that you forgot. I know that you surely read about DDL and DML, but maybe you forgot these things just because, right now you are focusing on working on things, not basically remembering the definition of that. But anyhow, the DDL stands for the data definition language. Basically, if you want to define something, you will go for DDL. And DML stands for data manipulation language. Basically, if you want to manipulate something, you will go for DML. So right now, if we'll go with the DDL, you can see to create databases or to create schema, we basically need the data definition language or DDL. So guys, do you basically remember what is the basic difference between a database or schema? So database is just like a container, right? The main container. And schemas are just like folders, right? You can see I have multiple schemas right here. Painter, product info, registration, school, Subhas. These are different schemas that I have. These are just like folders inside your computer, right? The school schema will contain different tables again. So anytime anybody is asking about the differences between the database and schemas, just remember this particular picture. You can see we have a main container. This is our database. And inside the main containers, we have different folders here, right? If I'll open up this particular folders, I will have different files inside this particular folder, right? So main container is database. This folder is your schema, and inside this folder you have different things like tables, store procedures, functions, and etc. Right? So basically, if we want to create any kind of database or any kind of schema or any kind of table or any kind of user, if you want to create this database, schema, table, user, so these things basically part of DDL or data definition language. Basically, you are defining or creating a database, you are creating a schema, you're creating a table, you are creating an user. Just like that, you may delete a database, you may delete a schema, you may delete a table, you may delete an user. And just like that, you may drop a database, you can drop a schema, you can drop a table, you can drop a user. So basically, this create, delete, rename, and drop, all these things, if you are doing it over a database, schema, table, or user, these are basically part of DDL. But DML is pretty simple. These things you are doing right now only. If you see, I have a table here. Let's say this table is student. If I want to insert any record to this particular table, if I want to update any records right here on this table, if I want to delete some record right here in this table, then all these operations are DML operation. Basically, I'm manipulating the table data, right? So command like insert, update, delete, when we perform over a table, we can say that it's a data manipulation language, or these are the DML, and these operations are right now we are doing on our Java application. Alright, I know that these things are theory, but if I'll show you some code, it will be really easy for you. Now let's see some DML operations. Imagine that you are performing some operation over a table called employee. You may try to insert some record to the employee table. You may try to fetch some record from the employee table. You may perform a select operation. You may perform an update operation. You may update some record of the employee table. You may delete a record from the employee table. All these operations that you are seeing right here, these are the DML operation. And for the DML operations, in our JDBC template, we have used the update method, isn't it? Till now, whatever the methods that we have worked with, like insert, delete, we are basically using the update method. So the update method of the JDBC template is basically designed to work with the DML commands, right? And what about the DDL commands? So imagine that if you want to create a table, this is the create table syntax, right? Imagine if you want to drop a table, right? Drop table employees, if you are dropping a table, or if you're altering a table, just like from the employee table, if you want to drop a column called name, right? If you want to modify the table structure, you can also do that by using the alter command. So creating, dropping, and altering the table structure is basically the part of DDL, okay? Data definition language. Right now the question is, what about the truncate? So if I'll write truncate table and table name, then obviously this is going to delete all the records of my table. And obviously we're truncating the whole table at a time, and this is a part of the DDL operation. And to perform DDL operations, we have a better method here, which is execute. And this execute method of JDBC template is specially designed to work with the DDL commands or the DDL SQL. So basically right now, I just want to give you a quick walkthrough on the JDBC template Spring documentation. Okay, so if you'll go to Google and if you'll search for JDBC template documentation, then you'll find this particular page, which is basically coming from the docs.springs.io, the official website of Spring. And right here, if I'll go to the method section of JDBC template class, if I'll go to E, you can see a lot of execute methods are there. And see this particular method. This execute method here is accepting an SQL, and this is basically execute a single SQL statement and typically a DDL statement. So basically, if we have any SQL or if we have any DDL SQL, then we can pass those SQLs right here inside this execute method, which is specially designed for the DDL statements. And if we'll come down here, if we'll go to the update section of this, where are my update methods? Update, it should be on U. Yeah. See here, there are different updates method. Right now, see this one. Basically, it also take a single SQL. But here, the update method is specially designed for the DML or data manipulation language, such as insert, update, or delete statement or delete records from our database. So whatever we learned so far, whenever we are performing any DML operation or whenever we are manipulating any table data, just like we're doing insert, select, update, or delete, anything just like this, we can use the update method of JDBC template. But whenever we need to deal with DDL, just like whenever we want to create a table, whenever we want to drop a table, whenever we want to alter a table or truncate a table, at that time we need to use the execute method of JDBC template. So right now, if I'll go to the next slide, and if I'll see my cleanup code right here, so we can basically modify this particular code right now. Basically, we are using update method and we are passing in the SQL. But right here, if we'll follow the JDBC template documentation, instead of using the update method to truncate the table, we can use the execute method of this. We can use the execute method of JDBC template. So instead of saying update, we can say execute here. And we can pass in our SQL, which is basically a DDL statement. Alright, so right now I feel you have created a couple of methods for delete and also for insert. So I feel you guys are getting into the track and you can understand right now how to develop different methods in Spring JDBC. Right now, as I said, let's go ahead and let's do some advanced stuff here. As I said, let's do a batch update or let's do a batch insert. Imagine that if I have a lot of records and I want to insert them together to my database. How to do that? Right now, let's learn it. Okay, so before I wrap up this particular video, I just want to tell you about batch update. So basically, how can we insert multiple rows to our database? So as of now, if you see inside our student DAO, we have an insert method. And if I'll go to the implementation for this insert method, you can see I am only inserting one record to my database, correct? So right now what I want to insert multiple records to my database, okay? So right now, all of the sudden, why I'm talking about a batch update or why I want to update multiple records to my database, because I have a specific requirement here. Let's go to test.java and right now, let me run this cleanup method, okay? So let me do command S and let me run this cleanup method. So basically this is going to clean up my table. So table cleaned up. So if I'll go to my MySQL database, if I'll go to my MySQL workbench, if I'll go to my student table, well, if I'll fire this particular query right here, you can see there is no data available here because I have cleaned up my table. So right now, let's say I do not have any data right here to perform any kind of operation. So basically I have to manually insert some records right here inside this particular table so that I can perform some JDBC operation. But what if I want to set up some test data for my table? Okay, so let's say inside my application, I will create a new class, and that class will help me to set up some test data so that I can play around that particular data. So basically what I want, let me create a new class here. Let's say new class. And right now I'm going to say this class as student DAO util, because this is going to be a utility class, or I can say student, let's say student DAO helper. Okay. I'm going to put this helper class inside a package called com.seleniumexpress.service. Okay, because this is just going to give me some service. This is going to set up my test data, and I'm going to hit finish here. Okay, so once that particular class is ready, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a method here. Okay, let's say I want to create a method called public void set of student table. Okay, so right here, what I want to do, let's say I'm going to create some student. Okay, let's say student1 equal to new student, and let me set some dummy data to this particular student. Okay, so right now, as you can see, I have created 3 different student objects right now. Let's say I want to insert all these 3 objects to my database table. Okay, so there is one way I can insert it. I can call the insert method of my DAO class. I can call this insert method right now, and I can insert all these 3 records one by one. But let's say, what if I want to insert all these records together? I want to insert all these student objects that I've created, all these 3 objects together. Then how can I do a batch update? Okay, and in order to do that, first of all, let me go to my student DAO, and let me create another method here for insert. So let me say void insert. Let me say I am going to create a overloaded method here, and this time I'm going to take a list of student. Okay, so basically I am going to send multiple students to this particular method parameter. Let me say students. Okay, and there you go. And right now I'm going to give an implementation for this particular insert method. Okay, so I'll go to student DAO IMPL, and right here I'll go to top. I'll do click here, add on implemented method, and I'll go all the way to down, and there you go. There's my insert method, isn't it? So basically I need to send all my students object to this particular method. Okay, so I'll go to my student helper class. I'll make sure I'll create a array list. Let's say I'll create a array list. I'll say array list of students, and let's say student list equal to new array list. Okay, and once I'm done creating my array list, let me add all these objects to my student list. So I'll say student list dot add, and I'll say student1, and similarly I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it for some time, and I'm going to paste it for multiple times, and I'm going to change the reference to 2 and student3. And right now I'm going to call this particular student DAO IMPL insert method, which is going to take a list of objects so that I can insert all these 3 objects to my database as a test data, so that every time if I fire this particular setup student table method, I'll have 3 different record of students inserted to my database. Okay, so to call this particular method called insert, I'm going to do what? This insert method is there inside the student DAO IMPL. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I am going to go to my student DAO helper class, and right here I'll be needing the student DAO object. Let me say student DAO, student DAO IMPL, student DAO IMPL, and I'll make it a private variable. And if I want, I can create the object for student DAO IMPL just right here, just like new student DAO IMPL. But I'm not going to do that because I'm going to use Spring here. I will basically make this one auto word. Okay, auto word. Okay, so right now basically what I want, this particular student IMPL object should be injected by Spring, because if you see here inside the student DAO IMPL, I already have a repository here. So student DAO IMPL object will be created by Spring itself, and it is going to store inside the application context. So basically here I'm saying, well, I am going to need that particular student DAO IMPL object, so give me that. So I'm actually auto wearing it, and it is a good practice, always code it to interface. So I'm basically giving the implementation class for this. So basically you can give student DAO here instead of saying student DAO IMPL, because anyhow student DAO has the implementation which is called student DAO IMPL. Okay, and also let me do one more work. Let me write add service here, because I also want my Spring to create the student DAO helper object and maintain it inside the application context. Okay, so right now this looks good. Let me take this object right now. Let me do copy, and let me go here, and let me say command V dot insert. Okay, and I'm going to pass the list of students. So I'll say student list. So right now in this array list, I'm adding all these three objects, and right now I'm sending that particular object to my insert method. So let me go to my student DAO IMPL class right now. Let me go to the implementation for this interface, and there I am going to develop this particular method right now. And this is going to be pretty simple. The same thing I need to do. First of all, I'll be needing the SQL. So I'll say string SQL equal to, then again my insert query. My insert query will be insert into student values, and I'll have three different values, and those value will be dynamic, because for each student this data is going to be dynamic. The first will be the roll number, second will be the name, and third will be the address. Okay, so let me give a semicolon here. So right now the next thing will be I need to fire this query for multiple times. So how many times I need to fire this query? I need to fire this query for 2 times or 3 times. How many times right here? 3 times, because I will have 3 different student objects, and all these objects I need to store to my database. So to do that, I'm going to go here and I'm going to say JDBC template dot batch update. Okay, and you can see there is a SQL query, but I'm going to use this particular method. Okay, so the first parameter will be the SQL that I have created, and the next will be the batch args. Right now, as you can see, the arguments. So what is going to be the arguments for these particular question marks? So as you know, as there is going to be 3 different objects, so there will be 3 different roll number, there will be 3 different name, and there will be 3 different address. So let me actually fetch it. So I'll say for, okay, and right now I'm going to fetch the student details from the student list object one by one. So I'll say what? I'll say student, temp student, and right here the list name is students, this one. Okay, and from here I'm going to paste the student detail. So let's say temp student dot get roll number, and temp student dot get name, and temp student dot get address. Okay, and once I get all these things, I'm going to wrap these things with an array, and right now I'm going to name this array as an object array. Okay, so object array student data is equal to this. So right now I have created a object array. I just made it ready. So for each student, I will have the roll number, the name, and the address. So right now I'll have 3 different student data array object. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a new list. Okay, so let's say I'm going to create a array list here. So array list So I'll be creating an array list of object array. I'm going to say SQL arguments, SQL args equal to new array list. Okay, so why I have created an array list of object array? Because I am going to have 3 different object array object. Okay, so object array object, because I'm storing my student information inside a object array. So I'll have 3 different object array, and those 3 different object array is going to store the information about 3 different students. So let me do that. Let me add this object array element to my SQL args. I'm going to say SQL args dot add, and each time I'm looping here, I'm going to add the student data. Whatever the student data I fetch for this specific student, I'm going to add that to this arguments. Okay, so I'll have 3 different arguments of object array, which is for 3 different students. And basically right now I'm going to take this, okay, take this list, and I'm going to paste it just right here, and I am done. So right now this particular line, this particular SQL is going to be fired for 3 different times by passing this information for 3 different times for 3 different students. Okay, so let's see right now whether our batch update is working fine and whether our 3 different objects, 3 different students object are getting inserted to our database or not. Okay, so let me go to student DAO IMPL and let me do a sysout. Let's say if the insert is working fine, I'll say sysout, and let me say here batch update completed. Okay, just giving a log statement here just to make sure the things goes well. So right now let me execute this particular insert method. So as you know, right now I do not have anything on my database. So if you see here right now, this particular database is empty. So let me set up this particular database, and to do that, first of all, I'll go to my STS and let me run a batch update for my test students data. Okay, so right here I'm going to call this setup student table method. So let me do, first of all, let me do command A, command shift F. Well, this looks good. So right now let me call this setup student table method first. So to call this method, I will be needing the object of student DAO helper. So let me get this object from the application context. So right now, for now, I am going to call this bean. I'm going to call this object as student DAO helper. Okay, I'm going to copy this name and I'm going to go to my test.java, and right here I'm going to do what? I'm going to say context.getBean, and I'm going to say give me the bean for this particular object, and I'll say student DAO helper dot class, and I'm going to store this with a student DAO helper object, right? So I'll say student DAO helper is equal to context.getBean of this, and right now let me call that method student DAO helper dot set of student table. Well, let me check whether my data are getting inserted, and after that I can perform any other operation by using my student DAO IMPL object. Okay, but for now let me comment everything and let me go here and let me run this application. So you can see batch update completed. So let me go to my database right now and let me run this particular command, select start from student, and there you go. We have 3 different records here. So our batch update worked good. So at a time we have inserted 3 different records, but what happened here? So it is saying student name is BLR, it should be my address, and the address is null. You know why this happened? Well, my student address should be BLR, New York and Austria. Student name should be something else. So first of all, let me go to my application and let me check what kind of thing that I have done there inside my student DAO IMPL. So my ordering is fine. So if you see here inside my database, first is roll number, then is student name, and then is student address. But why it didn't work fine? Well, let me try this. Let me say this, insert into student, then let me pass the column name, let's say roll number, comma, then student name, and then student address. So let me say student address, and let me check whether this time it works fine or not. And inside the student DAO helper, I think I have set the name. Well, inside this, I have matched up with the references. You can see I have written set name and set name 2 times, isn't it? So I need to change this to set address, and my address is going to be BLR, and I need to do the same for each of my student objects. So this is basically the problem whenever you'll do a lot of copy paste. So that's why I hate copy paste, and I also love it in the same time. So let me do Command S. Let me go to my test.java. So first of all, inside the test.java, let me comment this line because I want to clean up my table first. Otherwise, I will get some errors because I already have the records present here inside my table. The same records I cannot insert here again. That's because I will have the same primary key and my database is going to complain. So first of all, let me do a cleanup operation. So let me uncomment this. Let me do Command S, and let me do run this application. So my data will be cleaned up. Well, it's cleaned up. And right now what I'm going to do, I am going to comment these 3 lines. This is basically for my cleanup operation. And right now I am going to set up my student table. Okay. Now let's see whether my data are getting updated right here. So I do not have any columns right now. So I'll go here. I will run my program, and let's see what is going to happen here. Well, it's saying batch update complete. And right now let me run this particular command, and there you go. So it looks pretty good, isn't it?